One of the greatest challenges facing us in our life with Baba is acquiring a natural control of anger without repressing it. Baba has said that it is possible through great effort to rise above putting lust into action. An entanglement with the gross sphere was referring to putting lust into action, and greed, an entanglement with the subtle sphere. However, the root of anger is embedded in the mental sphere, which is at a much deeper level. Baba says that to control anger requires the intervention and grace of a perfect master or avatar. Therefore, we are faced with a Herculean task and have to turn to Baba for help. Baba has said that anger is used for domination and aggression. It is used for getting our own way. And sometimes, if we don't get our own way, we get even angrier. One of the insidious forms of anger is embedded in our values and beliefs, which we sometimes think of as sacrosanct. We think that no one should violate our sacred beliefs. People sometimes feel that their values are the true and correct ones and should prevail with others, including with their children and the whole world around them. When they are not respected, a righteous anger is often aroused because the root of our values and beliefs, because the root of our values and beliefs are on the mental level. It is no small achievement to root out their domination and avoid forcing our values and beliefs on others. Anger takes many other forms, from rage in extreme cases to its hidden form of resentment to its more subtle forms of annoyance, irritability, sarcasm, disapproval, and impatience. I don't think it will be possible to gain control of anger without dealing with these more subtle forms. There are two insights from Erich that have been extremely helpful for me in dealing with anger. If you express anger towards someone, Erich said, see that you apologize to them afterwards. Naturally, this can often be very humiliating, a blow to the ego and an admission that our behavior has been inappropriate, and the humiliation of knowing we will have to apologize afterwards acts as a deterrent to expressing anger in the first place. We are not dealing here with anger when it is used to protect or defend oneself, which is another topic entirely. Anger is an impediment to the soul's growth when it is used for the ego, but not when it is expressed in the cause of love and truth. Another invaluable insight I learned from Erich is how to express mock anger, that is, expressing anger without really being angry. It can get the job done without really hurting others. For example, suppose I am rooming with a couple of guys in college, and neither does much of anything to clean up after themselves, such as doing the dishes or cleaning the bathroom. If I don't say something and just let it happen, months can go by and naturally a resentment begins to build. When I finally speak up, there is a tremendous anger that comes through that can be hurtful and alienating. But if at the very beginning I express mock anger, such as, hey, you guys, I am supposed to be your mother. Am I supposed to be your mother and clean up after you? Let's share in keeping this place clean. The effect is not as insulting and shaming, rather than there being a hurtful barb in the anger, in the expressed anger, there is a softness in the intensity that makes its point clearly and without hurt. There's a softness in the intensity that makes its point clearly and without hurt. Controlling anger is a massive challenge, and I've only touched on a few aspects. I think it would be very interesting and informative to hear different ways of approaching it from all of you. J. Barbara.
Thank you, Ralph. Yeah, and nice to, welcome to the late night chat. I don't see our German, I don't see Johannes and Sabine, but it's very early in the morning for them. So I should say, I noticed in the Mandali, just saying a few words beforehand, I noticed in the Mandali that they didn't react in the same way to the situations that I did. I mean, if Baba wanted to get a rise out of me, all he would have to do was stage some injustice or some unethical behavior in front of me, and I would get a reaction. And over the years, I kind of I developed this thing of, well, how am I going to feel about this episode that's happening in front of me 20 years from now? I probably won't even remember it. So I just, I could let go of it. But then there are other things where I not only reacted, but I would react to my reaction. And those things, took decades to kind of work out of my system. But I did feel about the Mandali that they would react, but they wouldn't somehow react to their reaction. It didn't, but, like I say, if Bob wanted to get a rise out of me, that's all he had to do, is stage these things. But after a while, you get a deeper sense of what people are really capable of doing, and that helps. But anyway, anybody feel like venturing out and share some of their breakthroughs and challenges with anger? I mean, it's not an easy thing to get, a really natural control of it.
I think you're scaring people away, Jeff, with this
This topic?
yeah, the topic.
Okay, let's see. I'll give an example of mock anger. Well, I'll give an example, and you can decide. Robert Dreyfus, who's someone that met Bob in the 50s, and in the early 70s, he was like assistant to Erich. I mean, assistant to Adi Kairani. So he was in Adi's office with him one day, and Padre, one of the Mondley, storms in and starts yelling at Adi, but and blasting him. But it's in Gujarati. I mean, he doesn't know what's actually being said, but it's obvious that he's very upset. And Adi listens to it for a while, and then he begins to counter with his own argument. And there's this big argument that goes on. And finally, after about 10 minutes, Padre storms out. And Robert's witnessing all this. And Adi looks over at him and said, "Did that bother you?" He said, "Bother me? I mean, I wanted the earth to open up and disappear." Adi says, "Well, it didn't bother us." That's that gives you a little idea a view into their process. Okay,
Peter, yeah, Jai Baba.
Peter was just at the center. I'm surprised that he's survived the long drive and is on already. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I didn't think it was fair, Jeff, that you started first. And usually, since I really believe I scare people off, I wasn't going to go first. That's usually why I don't share much anymore. But yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, I was so tired when I left the center. I'd been like about 20, I think over 20 hours without sleep. And when I reached 75, I was already feeling strained, as in I could keep going, but I said I pulled over in back of a church. I hid there. I locked my car and I put my head back and I slept for like 4 hours. But one thing about this anger thing, one turning point, and anger is still a big issue with me because there's a certain way that I express it that I'm not proud of. Maybe I'll say it in a few minutes. One turning point to me is when I work at night. When I get into work, sometimes I don't usually see anybody. I'm alone, and if my employer gives me instructions that really super anger with me, I have nowhere to go with it. Usually, I can call someone, but I'm at work right now. But I'm at work then. And what I remember is the story Eric told that someone angry is like a ship or somebody on a ship without a rudder. I'm like, that's not good. If I'm angry and I'm simply angry and I'm going out to work driving, that's not good. It's unsafe. I could easily, something could happen. And when I remembered that I'm Baba, and I'm like, oh, Bob is angry. Oh, thank God. It's like there's a subtle wash that goes over me to say, okay, if I change ownership and say it's Bob that's angry with me, there's a certain contentment or a certain calm I get within my anger and within my rage. And then I start driving because I have to go to work. I have to start my job. And little by little, it dissipates. I think the game changer was saying that Bob is the one that is really angry, that's angry. But also something that I'm not proud of, and I'm getting the divine go ahead here, is that I've heard of Marines having this 1,000-yard stare, and I have what I call my 1,000 lifetime stare. Because sometimes when certain people upset me, I start looking at them and I think like Velcro, my ill feeling from 1,000 lifetimes is and I stare that I think can melt, cut, deteriorate glass. And sometimes I do use it unconsciously to intimidate. And I just started doing meditations thinking, what can I do about this? And instead of using a meditation where when I lose, I don't know who I'm angry at. This is like lifetimes back. And I look at like this trail of many, like the souls. There's so many souls and they're so packed together. And I'm staring at them. And what I do is I've been putting this like wave, this like golden light of love and put it in that direction for a while. But it's something I still have an issue with. It keeps me alone, I think. And sometimes I think that, how do I say this to wrap it up?
Take your time.
You know, every so often I say I'm not loved. I don't feel loved. And I look at the responses that people gave me initially, and I feel, no, I was welcomed. I remember being welcomed, and it was me that pushed others away. It was an unconscious thing. It was something I felt powerless over. I still feel powerless over it. And then again, it has to do with a certain, I'll say, type of people. When I get the least bit offended, I feel like in a way I'm like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, looking for an excuse to get mad at someone. So with them, when they get angry at somebody, that fuels them to play harder. With me, I pick it up and I get offended. And again, I think I use it as a mechanism so I'm alone. And again,
That makes sense.
yeah, and again, I don't know what else to say about it, because I can say I want to not be loved, but feel loved. That's the important thing, is feel loved. And this, I have a different acronym I use. I'm gonna spare the Zoom line what the acronym is. But when I think of like SAS, the Special Air Service, I look and I say, this is my 1,000 lifetime stare of like anger, look. And every so often I remember in the moment to start sending this thing called love in their direction, as opposed to just an angry dominant look. So, you know, after like 27, 28 years of being clean, I'm just kind of a little amazed I'm still dealing with this stuff, but it's the reality. And I think many people that have a lot of clean time would say, God, you haven't gotten over it yet? Despite all the work I've done, this is where I'm at. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. It is reality, though. And I'm getting a divine gaggler, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
No, beautifully expressed. Really, Peter, you cracked it open. You know, that's kind of the anatomy of anatomy of anger, and the how it all comes about. Excellent.
Richard next.
Okay.
Richard.
I'm probably going to speak more than once about this whole subject tonight, but I want to start off by saying that early on in my life, I didn't even know I was angry. I would pretty much jump to rage. And rage is a different animal because rage dislocates a normal functioning ego. It can disrupt your thinking. It can distort all of your emotions, blah, blah, blah. So that's just like out of control. But in my case, it wasn't pinpointed towards anybody's attitude or anything in particular. I brought it in this lifetime and big time. But lots of things about myself I could never understand. So I started studying, I'm going to have to say this, but Vedic astrology to try to understand the energies involved. But now I'm going to go to a couple of points. But one of the things I learned about anger was if I felt vulnerable to anyone emotionally, in lieu of what I just said, I would react normally with some sort of anger, or something like Peter said, keeping people at a distance allowed me to feel like I was protecting some kind of inner boundary. And in astrology, that's really called Mars. But the bottom line is that anger was still very unconscious for me. And it really disrupted my life. Of course, other people don't want to contend with that irrational form of anger, whether it's just a loud voice or, you know, being challenging or actually being really negative and hostile. But in any case, there's a guy named Abraham Maslow, and he had this pyramid of whatever, so you can be the best human being you can be. But one of the things he did at the very bottom, he said, first of all, you got to get a job, take care of yourself. Don't make yourself vulnerable without any money or any medicine or any friends. Try to do your best with all of that so that you can become who you are. Of course, that's just human. But slowly over time, and then like Peter, I'll stop for now. But slowly over time, and a long time, I kept wondering, what is this stuff? And at one point, I broke down and bought a book by a Frenchman. It was a very popular book, translated in English, I think. And a book, he was a therapist. And I started reading this book after I owned it for about a couple of years. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me what he was talking about was what I just said. My anger was used unconsciously to protect myself. But once it happened, the next phase of that with me, the moment, and this is real serious business for me, the moment you project anger towards someone, it took me a long time to realize this, but it was really through Baba. But I drew out the anger in others, and then it would just wash over me. And then I was really upset because here I was engaged, boom, 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 in this anger battle between two egos, and that never solves anything. But that is one of the things that is wise to think about whenever you start getting angry, is you're going to draw that out of others in your interaction with them. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, beautifully expressed as well.
P.S. I'm really angry with Ron because he got all the hair. Tony and I are really ticked off at Ron.
Yeah. We can do something about that. Okay. Go for it, Tony.
Oh, well, I didn't have much to say, but now I'm really pissed off at Richie. Speak for yourself, brother. No, just kidding. Um, I have nothing digested and learned from for what I'm going to share now, but it's current, so I'm going with it on that basis. We had someone who was a new person taking care of Elena, who was wonderful, actually, in every respect, but and ticked off every need we had on a practical level, in terms of Elena's care, in helping us with stuff in the house, but it was too perfect. And yesterday I was rehearsing. I've got a 1 hour set, at least, at the spring Northeast gathering on this coming Saturday. And so I'm one of the featured musicians. So I was running through this 1 hour that I think is the way I'm going to do it. And when it was over, I happened to say to this person, "Did you like it? How'd you like it?" And one thing led to another, and this person had been holding a rage that had been building and building. She'd been with us for about 6 weeks. As far as we were concerned, it was perfect. But she had all these little complaints, and that had festered, and she had not spoken of them. And she was a very mega Scorpio in terms of astrology, conjunct Mars and lots of other volatile stuff, which I should have paid attention to. But she just quit. She said, "I'm leaving." And the anger was so palpable, the rage. And in trying to get, Zeke tried to find out what's the matter. We were dumbfounded. And it helped get some information, but on the other hand, she knew if she started to speak, all the rage was going to come out, and it did. And so it ended with really filling this house with rage, and me and Zeke and Elena, and storming out and making threats, and it was, and we were in shock. Not only was this person going to make it possible for Zeke to come with me for this Northeast gathering, because it was just being bathed in pure, and if you know scorpionic rage at its worst, being bathed in the intensity of nuclear rage, and we were a mess afterwards. And the subject, I guess, that's sort of behind this is anger. What about when you're at the receiving end of anger? And at a certain point, I was actually afraid, because when someone's that crazy, they can grab a knife and kill you or stab you or something. But what I got as I was listening to the first few shares here was, and that fear was a fear of my own rage. Because what happens is, what I realized, you get magnetized by the other person's pure venting of anger and rage, and I don't want to go there, and I don't go there, but it's still charged up. And what do you do with it? And we were all up. Even Elena was up till around 1 o'clock, and then Zeke stayed with her because she was kind of wild, and I got to bed at maybe 4. And what I found is, if I can't take Baba's name in a way that I feel like I'm really connecting, I will just start saying the prayers mentally, Baba's prayers. And also I vary the prayer of repentance because of the value I found in forgiveness. I also shift it to forgiving myself for all those things, and forgiving others for all those things done unto me or done in my presence, or so on. And all that helped. I got onto the arti last night, and at just being in some kind of Baba presence was helpful. But we were a mess. We were a mess even to the next day. I contacted I have a mentor, NLP and Ericksonian hypnosis, who I've been seeing as I guess you'd say, as a therapist for a decade or more. Excellent. I arranged for him to meet with me and Zeke to again help talk us through it, which was a wonderful, powerful thing, because you can get, if it's a compassionate, skillful, caring person, you can get a lot of help in dealing with the anger. And a point came where I felt sometime today, this afternoon, it lifted. We do some Course in Miracles time, and we read a bit, and then we take some quiet time, the three of us. And we did it a little bit earlier tonight. And I carried out this forgiveness, included her in that, this person in that spiritual process. And I realized one thing, as I was able to let go of it by Baba's grace, or he lifted it, I should say, I realized something else. It was in this Course in Miracles thing we were reading, where it's saying, in effect, when you have a plan of what you think you need, and that's what you go for, and you follow your own guidance on that, it's going to turn out wrong. And if you give it to Baba, if you give it to God, or it says the Holy Spirit, but if you listen to that voice rather than the ego's voice, you'll get everything you need. Well, I had an experience. This woman, it dawned on me, she was everything we thought we needed. She, in all the things I mentioned, but she also did catheters, and Elena needs frequent catheters, so we can't even get away if there's a chance that Elena doesn't pee and she's got to have to get. So every base of what we thought we needed. And I said, oh my God, this has happened to me before. And it said, don't do that, because you're not going to get peace. You're not going to get happiness. Listen to the voice within, Baba's voice within you, and go with that. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, this was what happened with the girlfriend back in 1993, who changed my life by totally blowing up my insides. And the thing it shared in common with this was that person was everything in every respect that ticked off my list of what I wanted in a relationship and in a partner. And because it was my planning, even though I put it in Baba's hands, so he was masterminding the thing. What I have now is an extraordinary relationship that is so grounded in love and service and grace and everything else. But I had to let go of that to let Baba give me what he would have given me in the first place. And that was the same thing we had done here. We had, in effect, asked for that perfect person who it turns out was not so perfect. And I hope she'll be all right. But the rage, the rage piece was the worst of it for me because I, I was really desperate to get rid of the rage, my rage, the rage that I was just feeling the periphery of. And all's well that ends well. I mean, we did take it to Baba, and this healing has happened, I think. The problem with the next weekend and arrangements is have to put in Baba's hands, you know. But I guess that's what I wanted to. I didn't have
Yeah,
anything planned, but that's it.
boy,
Yeah.
very descriptive, very descriptive. I know the thing is when someone gets angry at us, it's hard not to vibrate in unison with that anger and come up with a response rather than a reaction. I mean, that's a major accomplishment in itself.
Well, we were both able to
Yeah,
respond from a loving place.
yeah,
But the
excellent.
more loving our response was, the higher it ratcheted up the rage that was being poured on us.
Yeah.
It was yeah. So
Wow.
it was not that it was hard not to resonate. It's like hitting a string in the piano, you know, or banging out a chord on the piano. That's going to ring. You can't really do much with it except like step back and take it to Baba, and in
Yeah.
whatever way he tells you at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, Tony. Excellent. Let's see what Ron, he's come out of his, now he's ready to let it rip.
I got a couple of things. I read a book once. I think the word peace was in the title. It was by Thich Nhat Hanh. And he's had some things to say about anger. And the thing that I liked about what he said was that, and I think Bob has also said that, if you get angry with someone, you might lash out and cause some kind of damage or, harm to the other person. And so it would be better to babysit the anger. Basically, is what his idea was. You feel the anger. You don't repress the anger, but you allow yourself to feel it without putting it into action. That sounds like what Baba said about it. But
Yeah.
I like the idea of the babysitting because eventually you outgrow it and you won't need a babysitter, but it takes some time. So that's one thing. Then I wanted to, I have this personal anecdote. I never really talked about it in terms of the subject of anger. It was about something else that I would tell this story. I told it quite often. I might have even told it on one of these chats. I can't remember. I had a housemate, and my housemate had, his own little idiosyncrasies, and I'm sure I did too. But whatever they were, there were at least a couple of things probably that really annoyed me. But and I didn't see him all that often because his schedule was such that he left for work around 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and he would go to sleep at 7 at night. So we didn't see each other that much. Maybe on weekends we hung out. I really liked him, but there were these things that were annoying me, but I wasn't saying anything about them. And what occurred was that I began to have intermittent, severe pain in the middle of my back. So it's very difficult for me to even raise my arm up without it having that pain. But like I say, it would come and go. And I didn't go to any doctor or anything like that. And my housemate, he would like try to massage it or something. Nothing would make it feel any better. But at some point, Baba came into the picture and told me, Ron, you got to tell Jim, that these things bug you. And oh, and very important. Uh, I was angry at these things, but not in any kind of a rage or anything like that, or even that I expressed any anger. I didn't express the anger because I was embarrassed that my ideas of being of not liking what he was doing seemed petty, and my ego didn't want to take on this idea of being petty, so I didn't say anything. But my back was saying some things, and then when Baba told me, you got to tell him what's bothering you, I of course I had to do it because Baba knows best. I just brought it up one day. It was not really a big deal at all, and that was the end of it. The back pain was the over, and did not come back. But it was connected to that embarrassment quality and a repression of my even mild anger. So maybe that's another aspect of it.
Yeah, excellent. We've all been in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like it's not that big a deal, but at the same time, it's an ongoing irritant in some way. Yeah, people know that book by Sarno, that guy named Sarno.
That's it.
Yeah,
That came into my position maybe about 15 or 20 years later.
yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Anyone else want to venture out and no, this is really, you guys are speaking very well about this subject. Okay.
Gabriola, go ahead.
Jay Baba. Well, I always seems like we have these talks about anger about once a year at least, and I always come because they're totally relevant every year. Um, so I'll say about two examples really quick. One much more small and one very great. So my sister is always a challenge to me. And I was telling her, and she was really depressed because a lot of bad stuff's been, she lives in Israel. She's living in the middle of a war for many months, and she's just really down and out. And so I wanted to tell her something good. And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to go to the Baba Center, Jeff. I found someone to go with me to the
Good.
Baba Center. I'm so happy I'm going to the Baba Center. Do you really think you should drive down there by yourself, all by yourself? Blah, blah, blah. And she went on and on. That really worries me. That concerns me. And I said, Eliza, I could drive down to the Baba Center, in my sleep. I've done it hundreds of times, but I got really angry. I reacted. And I realized, so then the next day, of course, it bothered me, not because of her, but whenever I'm angry, I'm upset with myself. I need to deal with me, it always, I can't, she may have even forgotten about it, but it's in me right there, So I sent her a letter, and as I wrote it, I realized that it's when she spoke like that, it made me feel afraid that she would take power over me. I mean, she lives all the way in Israel, and but I'm disabled. I'm a member of the family who, I just got that feeling like she wants to take away my freedom. She wants to take away my freedoms. I only have so many freedoms, and here she is trying to, and that fear, and that for me, the fear brought up the anger, the helplessness brought
Yeah.
up. So and I did write her a letter and apologize for my snapping at her and all that. And we'll see if she ever writes me back, but it's about me and Baba. So I feel clear. So the thing is, much bigger is we have a friend who's a hostage in Gaza, and we didn't know if he was alive for, 200 some days. And now they sent a propaganda video with him and another man in it, and he looks terrible. And it was obvious that he had been starved and was being forced to say the things that he had to say on the video. And I it was in a much weird way. It was the same exact thing. I felt helpless and but I couldn't even feel the anger. The anger was like below the helplessness or something because it was so huge. But of course there's got to be anger and pain and grief and all those feelings all mixed together. So in such a huge way, I don't know even how to even deal with that anger or that pain. I mean, it's all mixed together. So for him, and we don't know if he'll live, and it's just it's it's something that um I I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing his face. I kept feeling his agony. But today I listened to Peter Nordine's talk on, it actually was on sort of life before you're born. It sort of had to do with abortion, but it was about a lot of things. And somehow just hearing his words that were Baba words about the big picture, about karma being a law, not a fate. Karma isn't fate, it's a law. That was really helpful to me. And just the big picture. Like I can't get that big picture. I'm way not able to, but Baba does. And Baba has the big picture and he's created the whole thing, And so somehow that gave me, it's like just going back to Baba's words and the way Peter explained so many things. Um, Maybe he could have been reading the phone book and I would have got the same effect. But I actually think it was Baba's truth just pouring into me in how does one deal with the big things in this world? And I think it's only by going to a bigger thing, which is Baba's point of view. So
Yeah, beautiful. It reminds me of the line from Einstein: no problem can be solved with the same consciousness that went into creating it. We have to go to a larger consciousness. Yeah, beautiful.
Ahead, Sagar. Jai Baba.
Jeba.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriella. Yeah.
So I am at work called as Angry Bird. That is the nickname I got because a lot of people come to me because I work in a technology field and they ask me for code help and all that. So when I review their code, I am like, I told you this 100 times not to do this, and then you write the code in the same way, right? And then so that's where I'm trying to work. But the incident I'm going to narrate it did happen in 2013. It actually happened in Mehrabad. So my son was like 5 years old, and so we couldn't get a reservation in NPR because NPR you have to be above 7 years, and the hostel D was full. So we checked in Andhra guest house, and then when you check in Andhra guest house, you get a room and then you get a padlock and a key, right? So what happened was, my wife, I think she put the key somewhere. I think she said she lost it. So the day we were checking out, I went to the caretaker and said, we don't find the key. And he looked at me and said, how can you lose the key? How can you be responsible? And that flipped me off. And so I totally lambasted my wife. I said, how can you be responsible in Mehrabad? Baba was very meticulous with Mandali. And, he was very particular about certain things to be done in certain way. At least we should be disciplined here and all that. I lambasted and said, okay, I went to the caretaker and told him, okay, I'll go and get a new padlock for it because it's our mistake. So I took the bike and ran to Meher Nazar stores and then bought a padlock and came back. And then while my son was asking my wife about something and she was checking in her purse, and then she finds the key. So, and then so I took the key and then I went back to the caretaker and he looked at me and said, you lambasted your wife for no reason, and Baba was teaching you a lesson. You understand that? And I said, yes, this was a mistake. I should not have done that. I should have been more patient. So that was a lesson that Baba had me right in Mehrabad, how to control your anger. That's all I have.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Beautiful. And it's nice. You took us to Mehrabad too. Yeah. Anyone else to have? I'll just narrate a little thing that, well, let's see. This is Erich says this was a turning point in his life. This is referring to something that Gabriella said there. But there was one guy that would come to Baba in these gatherings, and he would kind of prostrate himself and bring, his devotion was just so put on and ingenuine and everything. And it happened for years, and it bothered Erich, but he never said anything. But except on this one occasion, after Darshan, Baba said, "Well, how did you find it and everything?" He said, "Yeah, it's good, Baba. It's good. Anything trouble you? Well, no, it's okay." But Baba got out of him. Baba, you know that this guy is not sincere. He's been doing this for years, and you just let him get away with it. I'm paraphrasing. And then Baba said, "You don't know how bad he's been. No, you don't know how far he's come to be just this bad." And Erich realized that was a turning point, because he's seeing a certain frame of the movie, but there's all the movie that came beforehand, and he's taking one little slice of this guy's life. But that line, you don't know how far he's come to be just this bad. And anyway, but that was a turning point for Erich's finding fault with others. He realized he didn't have enough information to make such a judgment. Anyone else?
I just wanted to comment on what you
Yes.
just said, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That story is very impressive. And I think if it gets impressed upon someone, like the way it has impressed me, I'm much more apt to remember it and think of it when somebody does something that I feel is less than noble or honorable or whatever. I mean, maybe some far less than that. But we don't know the whole story. We just don't know it. And Baba does. And so somehow giving it to him seems the wisest move in that case, rather than act upon our ignorance, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I find it very helpful. And it was, like I say, it was a turning point for Erich, especially. Yeah. There's a line from Thomas A. Kempis, a Christian mystic: "If you knew all, you would forgive all." And we don't forgive because we don't have enough facts. We don't have enough of the story. And that makes us angry, They're violating our values, the behavior that we like to see in others. Let's see, anybody else? There's a lot of people out there, and I know that the rest of you don't have perfect control of your anger, for sure.
Hey, Jeff, just have a comment here.
Yeah.
I like that line you just mentioned, I think, Ron and you, about regarding that story. Why did I suddenly forget? This is my habit, forgetting, which actually helps. When I get angry, I just forget things. But I just forgot to remember the thing you just said, which actually helped me.
Where he said, "You don't know how far he's come to be just this bad."
Right.
Yeah.
No. Thank you for giving me that. You never know the whole story. That's a beautiful line to remember. We never know the whole story.
Yeah.
So and because it gives you a sense of doubt if you know the story or not, It's time we just let it go. Just like Michael Singer in his book says, let it go all the time.
Yeah.
So, thank you. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful
And
thing.
and being critical really doesn't help the situation. That's
Yeah.
that's the
I,
thing. It
yeah.
doesn't do any, it just adds a sharpness to
Yeah.
a situation that's already sharp. Hey, good. Mexico City, here we come.
Hi, everybody. Well, I'll start off with something really good and not angry, and that is we had a very easy trip here to Mexico City, only altered by me having a terrible fall last Monday, which
Ooh.
is why I'm all bandaged up. And but I'm quick to anger, and it's something I really, really want to work on. So that's why I signed in tonight. Even though we're on holiday, I don't want to bring up anger, but it brings itself up. When we got here, they're having a heat wave here in Mexico City. And we get to the hotel room, it's not air conditioned. And the
Oh,
room seems small and it's very well appointed, but there's no closet. It's a very different way of accommodations. And I was, as Terry said nicely to the guy, my wife can get cranky. And I was cranky and I cannot be nice and it's not good. And it's something that I don't want to support and nurture. It's the exact opposite. I mean, my God, I'm in Mexico City. I'm on vacation. I had this terrible fall, and Baba had me do it right across the street from a fire station, and they did triage. And I was able to walk a block and a half to ER, and nothing's broken. And I was able to get the stitches out on Friday before we left. There's so much for me to focus on, but I can go from 0 to 60 in my own internal road rage. And it's, my mom used to call it putting emphasis on the wrong syllables. I mean, especially when I hear Gabriella's story, that is something to be incredibly angry about and upset about. Not having air conditioning or a closet. I mean, oh my God. And so thankfully I have Baba, and I can immediately, when I get aware of what I'm doing, step back and breathe and ask him to come in to calm me down. And he always seems to be laughing because he's seen it before. And I retire next month. So one of my biggest goals is to work on this. So thanks for letting me share my vulnerability. Thanks for that. I'm thankful I have a wife who has emotional sandpaper, always trying to smooth my rough edges down. Okay, Baba.
yeah.
And Jeff, did you get that picture I sent of the restaurant?
Yeah.
The hi, Jeff.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, but how do you know that that room that you're in isn't a closet? The whole thing. No.
It's not that small. And
When it's
trust
that
me,
small. Okay.
We've worked really hard to get out of the closet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know what a closet looks like.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you, I mean, how deep does your anger go? You know what I mean? There's like a superficial anger and there's a much deeper anger. I mean, there's some that's like, it's like a soda, that just kind of erupts, but it just kind of, it kind of disappears.
Well,
Or does it
there's,
link
yeah,
with does it link up with a deeper kind of grudge about life? You know what I mean?
I think it does trigger really old stuff, and it goes a little deeper than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because when I become not a nice person and I treat people rudely, it's absolutely unacceptable. And I have to be out of control in order to do that. I mean, I don't throw things, I don't cuss at them, and I don't shame them, but I'm just at the border of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, as parents, you feign anger sometimes as a kid's growing up, just, or with an animal, just to, and it's controlled, just to, you know, have a firm boundary. This is not that. This is when I'm not in control.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it feel more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Great questions.
Yeah. And like I wrote in that introduction, it's anger is entanglement at the mental level, which is very deep. It's harder to get at the root of it. And you know, it's understandable that we have the most difficulty with controlling anger and all of its manifestations. Yeah. What else have we got here? Oh, yeah.
Richard.
Diane's comment brought something up for me. It suddenly popped into my mind. It's true of me, and I had a hard time admitting it, but if I feel frustrated with my own inability to solve a problem, or if I put myself in a situation where I can blame myself for whatever reason, however I do it, then anger does come up for me. And so, Jeff, I have a question. In all of your journeys and all the things that you've learned and heard, is there something like anger towards your own self that can be, because I think I have some of that, and
Oh,
without going into a bunch of stuff.
yeah. Definitely. I mean, trying to hold yourself to higher standards than you're actually capable of, or trying to, say, solve a problem that is outside your ability. You know, I mean, that's, I think we all have a deep version of that, where we're falling short. So that's why self-forgiveness, self-acceptance is really, I think, central. It's been central in my life with Baba. Otherwise, I could have really been beating myself up for years, but that didn't work. So I've decided to accept myself a little bit more. I think Tony's going to respond to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of this is informed by our work with Course of Miracles, but all anger is ultimately directed at yourself. All anger, all attack, all judgment, all blame, because the other person is you. You are the essential self. And when you're not listening to Baba in you, you're listening to the ego that says, no, you're separate. He's a danger. He's a threat. She's a problem. If you go with that voice, it gives you a momentary satisfaction, but it doesn't give you peace, because whatever you're saying about that person, you're reinforcing about yourself. And like the Course of Miracles makes the point, there is no getting away from the consequence of your choice. If you choose to listen to Baba, the results will be fruitful. If you choose to listen to the ego, it's going to be hell. They call it hell and heaven. I like to think of hell, which like you feel like you're going through hell, and heaven I think of as God consciousness, not so much God realization, but my first Baba song, I just wanted to have Baba's name out there, but I didn't know a lot. I'd read most of God Speaks. So the first verse was, all is oneness beyond creation, and illusion is the game. Ego consciousness maintains your station amidst the crying of self-inflicted pain. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. But it struck me then, it's like, how cool that is. There's ego consciousness and there's God consciousness. It's not like God realized. Either you're conscious of the ego or you let yourself be conscious of God. And if you go with one, it's heaven, in quotes. And if you go with the other, he creates hell. So the anger is, yeah. The other thing is, Zeke and I did a 9-day live-in training with Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication. And he describes, and that whole thing is connecting through the acknowledging your actual feelings, real genuine feelings, sadness, joy, excitement, not the things we call feelings like I felt abused. That's not a feeling, right? It's a judgment. But and through that you connect with what your need is. And if it's the negative emotions, then what is it? What need is not being met that's giving rise to that emotion? And you enter that sphere, you're in your heart and you're with Baba. On the other hand, he talks about what he calls the 4 life alienating reactions, that they're not feelings really: guilt, anger, depression, and shame. Shame and depression. Guilt, anger, shame, and depression. And they're tangles of the mind that just have the fume, the energy of emotion to them, but they're judgments and tangles of the mind. And working that system, the only way to get past it, if you're in that, is to really try and connect. You can't even connect with your feelings when you're dealing with guilt, anger, shame, or depression. You have no access to your feelings, but you can still go into what is the need. What is the need that's provoking this? And the need will connect you then to the genuine feelings, which connects you to Baba, and you can lay it at his feet. But anger, there's one thing in the introduction to this tonight's chat that bugged me about sometimes anger. Now, I'm not talking about mock anger or fake anger, but that sometimes anger serves a good purpose. And I think anger is really damn dangerous because it is the strongest, the most dynamic way of separating you from yourself and from Baba and from the people in your life. Well, it's all in one shot. Either you're on the one side and you're connected to Baba, yourself, and the people in your life, or you're separating. So those are just some thoughts.
Yeah, I read that to a person who, that had me add that about anger sometimes is used for defense and protection, because in the case of where you're being abused, you're in an abusive relationship and you have to kind of protect yourself. And she kind of felt like you have to get angry sometimes, otherwise the abuser will just keep abusing. That's why that.
I think there's a distinction that I would make. That is, it is horrific. The idea of, in terms of life, what that which serves life. That's what the NVC thing focuses on. To suppress anger, no. You have to connect. What's the need here? And the need is to get the F out of this relationship.
Yeah.
Or the need is to get safety. I need safety and protect. That's a strategy, actually.
Yeah.
But the need is I need safety and I need protection and I need a comfort level and things like that. So the anger it's not, the anger doesn't do any good. It's the result. It can alert you to what the need is. But the anger itself, I think when you indulge it, you always, it always wins.
And I would say you could get in that situation, you get angry at the person and leave the house and never return to that relationship. You know what I
but
mean?
if you stay angry with the person, then you are chained still to the person that you're trying to get away from.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of it as in that moment, it can get you away from an abusive situation. Anyway, that's why that was included. But anyway, let's see what I saw. Gabriella had her hand up
Yes,
there.
it's me. I would want to say, hey, maybe Tony, it's kind of like anger is a bridge in that situation to something else. I agree with you if you hold on to it, but I don't think that the ordinary human being is Martin Luther King. I mean, we need sometimes to shift where we are and how we see ourselves to something else. And that anger can be a bridge but I agree with you that, and I really loved your sharing before about how that anger kind of, how being the recipient of that anger, because that's a really important thing to think about. Because I know for me, when somebody gets angry at me, all my molecules, I mean, they really shout at me or all my molecules start to dissolve. I mean, I start to disappear. It's terror, you know? And I think that I see that that's really, for as an adult, as a mature person, I don't want to do that. I don't think that will help. And I do think it bounces right, whoever said it earlier, it bounces right back on me ultimately, you know, like that little story about my sister. And I made this big deal about driving to the center and I had never had a problem. Now I'm worried that because I got mad at her, I'm going to have a problem, you know, because I made a big thing of it. So anyway, I'd like to just thank you for all of that.
I just want to jump in to say I'm definitely not talking about I'm talking about not justifying anger. I don't, in my experience, when anger comes up, it's there. And it's, I don't think we choose anger as much as anger chooses us. And then you have to go with the experience. And I know Baba said, if you're never angry, you'll be like a stone where consciousness is least developed. And he said, and if I'm remembering correctly, he said, when you feel anger, try to put it into perspective. Try and see other ways of looking at the situation, but not to. What I'm talking about is justifying anger, because ultimately anger is about harm. And if in the situation that's what comes up, and maybe it saves your life, well, that's what happened. You know, I've let anger out with someone, say at the door. I thought there was someone at the door who was endangering the house. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying sometimes it's a necessary evil, but justifying it, I have found to be very dangerous for myself.
Yeah.
And it's an energy like any energy. And once it's out there, it's out. It's like, how does one deal with that as an energetic substance within ourselves? I mean, now that we are more conscious with Baba.
Yeah.
Jeff, didn't Baba have the story where someone had a conflict with someone and Baba said, well, I didn't tell you to bite, but you can bark. Isn't there a story about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's in a way a form of mock anger. You know, you're that it kind of comes into that. But I tell you, back in my college days, I was at Columbia University, and there was the riots that were going on, and these police surprised all of us and came after us with batons. They were beating people, and we ran to the dorms trying to get away from these police because they were just. And I found myself in a lounge, and they had people on the floor beating them with these batons in hurtful places. Luckily, I mean, I got in a rage, and I just turned around and I found a window that happened to be open this way, not the kind of the, and I jumped out the window a floor and a story and a half, and I was on Broadway, and I was free from the whole thing. I could have been on the floor getting beaten up, but the sight of it angered me so much. I just like leaped out and so my anger, but I didn't continue to be angry at these people, but that anger, the sight of this, infuriated me, and I just said, I'm out of here. And otherwise I would, if I'd gotten beaten, I think I would have really had a heavy, serious dose of anger and rage if they would have been beating me up with these batons. Because they were in a rage, the officers, the police were in a rage. Hey, so let me see. Oh, we got Tony there, and then I was hoping to Bob that you could read that Rumi poem at the end that you read earlier, just because I think it's wonderful and more people ought to hear it. So go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, just quick. I don't know if it's Thich Nhat Hanh or wherever I got this awareness, but whatever we're feeling, we're actually only feeling it for like a split second. The question is not so much if you're getting angry, but if you're holding on to the anger, or if you're sad, or you're feeling grief, and you're holding on to the grief. But the actual emotion, the actual feeling, even the actual reactive thing is in a second, in the moment. And So there's it
Yeah.
kind of con ourselves into thinking I'm a depressive person, or no, it's holding that on, which in normal course of life would have passed to something else, like children go from one emotion to another.
Yeah. Yeah, because Baba gave the figure, someone could slap you and the sting goes away in a matter of seconds. But your interpretation of that slap, if you feel like they've insulted you, that can last for a lifetime, or it can last for 3 months, or it can, until you work it out. It's the reaction to the reaction that is where a lot of Baba has to kind of be brought in there. Okay.
Ron, Jay Baba.
Yeah, just a quick thing, which is, we were talking about rage. Rage is big anger, I would call it, but there are little angers, little things that contribute toward our kind of getting away from Baba. And one of those things is anger about a delay. Let's say, you want to go somewhere and you have in mind that you're going to be there at a particular time, and then something comes in the way. You lock your keys in the car, or you something, traffic jams, things like that. And Baba said to remember him in small things. I know that's in Baba Tu's Awakener, Conversations with the Awakener. I really think that was great. Remember Baba in the smallest of things, because we need that type of practice if we're going to be with Baba. And if you get angry at the situation that is causing a delay, you're basically getting angry at what is. And who is Baba? He is what is. He's the is guy, right? He is existence itself. If it exists, that's Baba. So my wife and I learned this affirmation, and if you can think of affirmations, they can help you in at a point. For instance, if you get delayed, what we would say, we learned this from a Baba friend. Their mother used to say it, which is, thank God for every delay. Because again, we don't know the whole story. What we got delayed from might have been that, we had gotten into a traffic jam or a traffic accident or something like that. We don't know what the reason is, but we're going to arrive how we arrive, and it'll all work out for the best. So, accepting what is kind of important. And if we get angry at it, and that just doesn't bode well for ongoing acceptance of what is.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. and sometimes a delay gets you to think about Baba, which you might not have been doing with any intensity. It's definitely get you thinking deeply. Okay, this is the last comment, and then we're going to hear from Bob. Go ahead, Gabriella.
I'm sorry to speak so much. This is
a
conversation.
Yeah.
But I loved what you just said, Ron, because I was going to say the same thing, but in a different way, which is that after the October 7th attack in Israel, I haven't known what to feel, and it's like I keep bringing myself back to it. I can't forget it. But the deal is accepting what was or is in this reality, in this illusion, which Baba has put us in. This is reality. And that is not the same thing as anger. That's not the same thing as revenge. That's not the same thing as shock or I can feed it, but so I feel like there is it's almost like anger is a way of not accepting just what is. It's a way of blocking it.
Yeah.
And so I just want to add that. Thank you very much for saying that, Ron. It was perfect for me.
Yeah, beautiful, Gabriella. Yeah. It's just we're not getting our way. Things aren't how they should be. is one of the major excuses for justifications for anger. Okay, let's have Bob, if you could read that again, and then.
Just a second. Jim,
Oh.
can I just say something?
Oh, good, yeah.
It's Janet, just quickly about accepting what is. I mean, I totally get it, and I feel that's true. I was in a recent experience. It had to do with the family and business and these things where I had a lot of frustration, and then became angry. But I didn't become angry at the person. I stayed away from the person so that I was angry. I mean, there was just like this energy inside of me. But what I asked Baba to help me with is to know the difference between accepting what is and not moving forward with something that needs to happen. I mean, to me, that is a very nuanced response, because, I mean, I'm thinking of the experience. I mean, my situation is not the situation that Gabriella's talking about, but say like the situation in the Middle East, and not knowing not knowing what is, what should be, what has been. I mean, it's way beyond my perception. But does that mean we don't work at something happening? That we accept it, and I think there's important that we put that "and" in there, because it isn't like accept and lay down and be walked on. It's like accept and ask for guidance what the next step is. Trust in Baba as best we can that we are being guided in whatever situation we personally are in. Trust that we were being guided, and that movement can happen, forward movement can happen. And yet it isn't about, it's coming from the true power, the power of the divine, of Baba within us, and not the power of our ego's anger. And I mean, at one point in time in this little experience I had I was talking about, there was a moment in which, oh my God, my anger was so powerful. It was like, whoa. And I spoke with someone who said to me that anger is the opposite of powerlessness. And it was not anger that I was really doing anything about. It was just anger that I was experiencing within. And I mean, just spin out anger. And where I felt like Tony couldn't sleep, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the point is that anger helped me touch on where power is within me, and then translate that into the real power that is within all of us. And that, I mean, and I'm not there. I'm not saying I'm standing with my feet in that ground right now, but I definitely sensed then the difference between anger power and the power of Baba power. When that comes in and speaks to us, and it's strong. It can be very strong. In my experience, it can be strong, but it isn't against somebody.
Yeah.
It's for something. Anyway, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Invaluable point. I mean, it's like we can accept what is, that is if something untoward happens, it is what happened. Then what is love indicating to do about it? It's not just accepting something that's untoward and not doing anything about it. It's accepting that it has happened, and then what would love do in this situation? What would Baba want? That's what you're saying, and that's beautiful. So glad that you chimed in there at the end. Okay. Bob, how about reading that, and then we'll have a few moments of silence afterwards.
Okay. This is a Rumi poem from the Big Red Book, Coleman Barks. The title is The Wave of That Agreement. Every second, a voice of love comes from every side. Who needs to go sightseeing? We came from a majesty and we go back there. Load up. What is this place? Muhammad leads our caravan. It is lucky to start out in such a fresh breeze. Like ocean birds, human beings come out of the ocean. Do not expect to live inland. We hear a surging inside our chests, an agreement we made in eternity. The wave of that agreement rolled in and caulked our body's boat. Another wave will smash us. Then the meeting we have wanted will occur. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Read it again, Bob. Would you mind?
Yeah,
Read
go
it.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The wave of that agreement. Every second, a voice of love comes from every side. Who needs to go sightseeing? We came from a majesty and we go back there. Load up. What is this place? Muhammad leads our caravan. It is lucky to start out in such a fresh breeze. Like ocean birds, human beings come out of the ocean. Do not expect to live inland. We hear a surging inside our chests, an agreement we made in eternity. The wave of that agreement rolled in and caulked our body's boat. Another wave will smash us. Then the meeting we have wanted will occur.
Wow. Incredible.
The
Written from
meeting we have, and what's the word we had wanted or wondered? The meeting we have
The meeting we have wanted will
wanted.
occur.
Yeah.
Will occur. Yes.
Yeah.
Desperation. Yes.
Written from the top down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, happy Mother's
thank-
Day to all the
Oh
women.
yeah, happy Mother's Day,
Oh,
all you mothers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's Dooney as well.
It's got to be a
Yeah.
bunch
Bob,
of
what
them.
page? Bob, what page is that poem on in that Rumi book?
Yeah, that is on pages 113 to 114 in the Big Red Book.
Yeah. He came and he's come to the center and read this poetry. So I think it's kind of late. Yeah, I would almost have thought to have Tony play that Dooney song, but it is a little bit late. But
Yes,
wonderful words
it's
to it. Yeah.
I can
also
do it.
Duty Day. Yes.
But it's
Happy
I think
Mother's
it's
Day all.
If you'd like, I can do it.
I
Well-
think it's too late.
it's too
Sorry.
late. Okay. Well,
Oh,
well, next Dooney.
I was
Yeah.
voting yes, Tony, for the record.
Yeah.
It's, I sang it earlier and I'll sing it another time. It's just if people want to hear it, I can do it.
We
It is
got- we
beautiful.
got-
Bob Gans wrote the words and I put
Yeah.
the music and it's
Yeah, excellent
lovely.
words. Really, very good.
Yep.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you. And really, I thought you people shared beautifully on this subject. I didn't anticipate such an in-depth kind of revelation from people. Yeah. Yeah, I was, otherwise, if you guys hadn't, I would have gotten a little bit pissed off, but, you know. But yeah, you guys,
Well,
no, expectation. What did Bob, Eric's got some really off-color things about expectation,
hmm,
you know, but I won't say it here. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, wonderful. And Dan, it's nice to see you from Oklahoma.
Thank you, brother. Great to see you guys. I
Yeah.
haven't dropped in a while, so
Yeah. Well, you and have a, does it look like we've aged?
well, I have seen you. I have been following the recordings, so some
Yeah.
of them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you still look like a bunch of old farts.
I think, yeah. I think when people ask me, I say, "How you doing, Jeff?" I say, "Well, for years I was growing and growing in Baba, but now I'm composting." It's that phase of life where you come.
That's a good one.
I'll go right from here to the vegetable patch.
What time is it in Mexico City? What time is it in Mexico City?
It is 9:29
Oh,
PM.
Wow.
yeah.
That's what time it is in Denver. Yeah.
Wow, we're aligned.
Yeah.
It's mountain time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, you're
wonderful.
composting, Jeff. I don't think Tony's ready for it yet. I'm composting. I'm
Yeah.
getting kind of ripe, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, eventually, yeah, it's a great place to be, you know.
Well, I'm at the age where I can share the same thing 2 chats in a row because I don't remember sharing it the last time. Not really.
Uh-oh.
Word say.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jai Baba, everybody, have a nice week. And if you have, oh wait, we got to have Nasreen to end the session. Okay, Nasreen.
Okay. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Okay,
Baba, everybody.
that's the final bell.
Thank you.
All right. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Thanks, Peter.
Have a wonderful Baba week.